The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us on this pre-harvest webinar. We're going to give folks just a couple more seconds, up to a minute, to get registered or get logged on, and then we'll get started. Okay, it looks like the folks that we had that were logging on have gotten into the room. So good morning again. Thanks for joining us. I'm just going to go through a few housekeeping things before I turn it over to your speaker panel this morning. So first and foremost, we promoted this event with some $50 gift card giveaways. And normally we like to do our meetings in person and support a local restaurant or a local caterer. And since we're doing it online, we want to make sure that at least a couple of you get fed. So Steve Ferry and Eric Pullen will be drawing names after this meeting and giving a couple of you a call to give you some $50 gift cards to some local restaurants so you can go enjoy a meal out on the town. We do have all of your lines muted to avoid background noise. We did that on our end. And then this GoToWebinar tool has a questions function. So in your toolbar box, there is a box that's called questions, and you can type a question in there and we'll answer it at the end. Or there's a little icon next to your name and you can raise your hand, push the button for raise your hand, and I can unmute your line and you can ask the question out loud. So with that, I will turn it over to our President and CEO, Matt Karstens.
Thanks, Alicia. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time this morning to join us. I think this is a really unique way, not maybe the ideal, but a unique way to connect very quickly, very efficiently, and share some of our thoughts, not only around harvest and what we're about to lead into, but also from a high level where we're at as a company and what you should expect from us as we move forward. I want to give you a little background on myself for those, which are most of you that I haven't had a chance to meet yet. I'm from originally Guthrie in Dallas County, which is where we farmed. This is our home cooperative as well. We farm corn and soybeans and fur to finish hogs, now a little bit of a beef or a cow-calf operation as well. So this cooperative, this industry has been in my blood since the day I was born. I spent a lot of my professional career off the farm, spending it in companies like American Cyanamid, BSF, and as of late, Land O'Lakes, where I ran one of their 4 business units for them before joining Landus. I'm excited to be a part of this, and I think we've got some really great days ahead, although we've got a lot to show and change in our company as we try to get Landus to what it needs to be, not just the size and scale that was a big draw to putting it together, but really showcasing that leadership, not just in our state, but across the globe, where we also play in our grain and our dairy nutrition plus business. I want to first start the core of this talking about derecho. We had a lot of our farmers that were affected by that. Hopefully not many in this area, but clearly drought has stricken this area we're talking to as well. So a lot of different factors that have affected agriculture, particularly our farmers here at Landus. And I want to just say that our thoughts are with all of them. And hopefully everyone is making the recoveries they need from derecho and also helping get ready for whatever fall season throws our way. From Landus' perspective, we had minimal damage from the storms that came through, and we're very fortunate. The folks that we compete with that have similar facilities next to us all took on a lot more severe damage. We lost 3 grain bins. All 3 were set to be tore down anyway, so that will be what now for sure happens. The biggest damage was done to a transfer leg and conveyor in Bondurant, but we're able to patch through that and still be able to have access to all of the grain storage for this harvest. So again, we're very fortunate. We know that, and we'll continue to extend the olive branch to all the farmers that we can, and even the peer group that we have with other cooperatives where we can help. Before we let let Warren DeVore, your regional general manager, speak, I want to just tee up a couple things for you. One thing that you'll notice as we go through this morning is a little phrase called employee empowerment. You're going to get to hear from the employees that actually work every day to serve you, that believe in your ownership here at Landus. And I think that's an important part of the journey as we move forward, because these are the people that know your business best. You don't want me making decisions on your farm specifically, because I don't know your operation and how you go to market and the goals and aspirations that you have. But these are the people that do. They spend all of their time working on that every day. So we're moving our focus from being very centrally driven to putting the power back out with our employees, whether it's applicators and folks that unload your trucks, all the way through the team that you're going to see today. These are the people that truly make a difference. These are the people that I know you trust. So you'll get to see this empowerment in its purest form. The second thing that I wanted to tee up as we transition over to Warren and his team is that COVID, whether you see this as a major issue, a minor issue, does not matter. I don't really care where you stand on the topic. That's your prerogative. But what I do know, in behalf of all of you in this company that you own, is that we must make sure our employees here at Landus are healthy and able to work all the way through fall season. And the same for you and your staff, that they're able to stay healthy and a part of this harvest that we're undergoing. And without one or two employees at a specific location, it's detrimental for us, and the same I'm true is sure for you. So we must make sure that we're doing all steps necessary to keep our employees healthy and available. So we will go back to instilling some of the same policies we had for spring season, like contactless deliveries, keeping as many people out of the office as we can, using some of the new technology we're employing to sign contracts and things, social distancing, all the things that you have heard about. We're going to continue to implement and strengthen over the last few months that we've been doing, just to make sure that, again, we're doing all the right things from a health and safety standpoint. So with that, I want to turn it over to your regional general manager, Warren DeVore, who has been with us now for several years. Warren, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, as Matt said, I'm Warren DeVore. I'm your regional general manager for the Northwest region. I've been with Landus now. This will be my fourth harvest. I've got 34 years in the business, and I've managed assets in Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, and now Iowa for several co-ops and a multinational. But I would tell you, if you're going to be in the grain business, there is no better place with the soil that we have and the people that we get to work with, that Iowa is just a fantastic place to be in the grain business. First, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to be on the call. This is a relatively new format, certainly for us, and I think it's really nice that we're able to reach out in this way. Secondly, I'd like to thank everybody in advance for your patience this fall as we deal with unprecedented COVID-related issues, as well as some of the harvestability and quality challenges that we know we're going to have. We've got a great staff in place to help you this fall. You know, facilities have a little age on them, but they're in very nice shape, and we really feel like we're in a good spot to get this crop, and we're eager and ready to help service your needs. So with that, I'm going to introduce Eric Pullen. He's your location manager for Early, Newell, and Sulphur Springs, and he's got a few comments about those locations for the fall. Go ahead, Eric.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks again for jumping on this morning. We're just going to go through a little bit if there's any changes with any locations. Again, I'm Eric. The names that I saw on the registrant list, most everybody knows me. I've been here, started here in early in 1997. Seen a lot of changes. I think we're going through some things now and are headed in the right direction. We're coming into it, going to be a tough fall. Yields are going to be down. We had a drought, obviously, so luckily in this area we were out of the main path of the derecho, but we're still lacking water. So hopefully there's some pleasant surprises out there. But we'll start with sulfur. Everybody kind of knows we have one steel bin there. It's dedicated to beans again. We've gotten to the floor of it this year. We swept it all the way out, so it's ready to take. soybeans. We're putting in a new top conveyor chain today as we speak, so it should be ready to go. We're going to utilize both piles if need be. Last year we had some space issues with our transfer location, so we couldn't fill the south pile with the wet crop we had this year. I think it's going to be a lot drier, so we'll utilize the south pile if need be. Other than that, no changes in the traffic pattern or anything there. So we'll go to Newell. Same thing here, not any changes that I foresee. We're basically empty also. We did put in a new conveyor chain and motor in the south house, so you guys that deliver there know that we have some issues with that thing being a little slow generally, but this year that should change. It sped it up quite a bit with just that little addition. Yeah, we obviously last year we did a bunch of demolition. We took out in this picture you can still see the old feed mill there, and that's changed the traffic pattern going into the south soybean house. Made it a lot easier to approach the east entrance. I think that's all the changes we've done there. Go to early. Still taking all our beans uptown. We're going to weigh everything down here again, which we did last year. Anybody that delivered here know we made that change last year. We closed the office up there with help being short. So we'll weigh everything down here, run up there to dump. Corn will all go to the south here. We're basically empty here also. Bins are swept out, so plenty of room for stuff. I think that's all the changes there. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. So now I'd like to introduce Steve Ferry, your location manager for Ida Grove and Odebolt.
Morning, everybody. For those of you who do not know me, I'm Steve Ferry. I've been with Landus for like 22 years now. Prior to that, I've basically been in the grain/agronomy business since like 1980, so clear back when oats were a commodity. I want to start out with talking about Odebolt here. Lish, I don't know where you're at on your screen there, but Odebolt's got a capacity of about 3.5 million bushel. What I did was run off a history of the prior 3 years of an average of about what we take in per fall. And on corn and Odebolt, we're looking at about 1.6 million average. On beans, 1.7, so basically about the same number there. In the past, we've had lineups that maybe might get up to a half hour, but they do a good job of shucking them through here. We can dump up to 30,000 bushel an hour with 2 different places to dump, so they get through pretty fast. There's no change in any traffic pattern this year in Odebolt. Transfers, if we have to transfer out, they will be out of the lineup of the farmers, so that's not a holdup or a bottleneck for them. And as far as fall hours go this year, we're probably going to try to run about the same, 7 in the morning till 8 or 9 at night, depending on what Mother Nature does for us as far as if it ever starts to rain out here. I don't know, but anyway, speaking of rain, I've had lawn of the week for 10 weeks in a row here in Odebolt, and I haven't even mowed, so that's how dry it's been. There's some big cracks out here, but it's amazing what the crops do look like with the lack of rain we've had. I think the hybrids are built up so good these days, it's unbelievable. But let's move on to Ida Grove. Ida Grove's a big horse, 5.5 million capacity. Average harvest receipts for corn in the past 3 years have been about 1.8 million. Average receipts for beans, right around 3.2 million. Beans is our big commodity during harvest. We will be loading 4 to 5 bean trains during harvest just to make room for what's coming in. I did run an off-season report average too, and this is kind of blows me away a little bit. Maybe the GMAs can elaborate on it a little bit more, but this year, or the last 3 years average on corn, we normally take in about 750,000 bushel, and this year we're at a 2.8. Now I do realize with the COVID and the ethanol basis, we've captured some of that market, but beans too, normally we run around 1 million in the off season, and this year we jumped up to 2 million this summer. So it's been like harvest all summer long out there in Ida Grove. It's the guys that we've been loading a lot of trains, and they've been working hard. So we did build a new office and scale in Ida Grove in the past year. The traffic pattern will stay about the same. It's just kind of an elongated route. We put a lot of money in Ida Grove in the last 2 years, mainly replacing wore out components. We did add a conveyor that's going to increase our dumping speed by 5,000 bushel an hour. As far as lineups go there, we've had up to a half hour, 45 minutes, but when you're dumping 300 to 350,000 bushel a day, that's not a bad deal, I don't think. We do load 30 to 35 trains a year out of there. Fall hours there too are going to be about the same as Odebolt, 7 in the morning till 8 or 9 at night. Weekends, we try to shorten Saturday up a little bit, and Sundays 10 to 5 to give the guys a little bit of a break. Guess that's about it. Last but not least, I'd like to give a shout out to the operations crew that we have. We got Renee and Mike here in Odebolt. I got Mary and David in Ida Grove that put in a lot of hours and keep the operations end of it going. Through this COVID pandemic, we've taken some precautions like Matt had talked, but it's business as usual. We got trains to load, we got trucks to dump, we got fields to spray. It's life goes on out here for us. So that's about all I got. Warren, back to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve. So just kind of wrap up a little bit. We're really excited about getting started with harvest, even though there's going to be some challenges in the field. But we're here to service your needs and your operation, but we can't address anything we don't know anything about. So I would really encourage everybody to over communicate what your needs are, especially around any quality or harvestability issues you may be experiencing. There was a question yesterday on the call, about quality. Are you going to dock me? Absolutely. The customer service specialists, they have a job to do. They grade it like they see it. There will be some surprises to test weight and some things. And if you're seeing something that is kind of out of the ordinary or is kind of not where you've been in the past, I would encourage you to get your location managers involved and have a conversation around that. There's not a lot of latitude with the customer service specialists. They are grading it as they see it. So there are going to be some challenges with some of this lighter test weight in some of these more burned up type of areas. Certainly FM might be on the increase, and then whatever damage we may run into if we got some downed or lodged corn that may have a harvestability issue. So we are here to help and would really encourage any communication and discussion along those lines. So with that, we're ready to get started. We really appreciate y'all's business and look forward to seeing y'all here in a few weeks. Thank you. Matt.
Thanks, Warren. Appreciate it. Now, and Eric and Steve as well. Now, Steve, I've got a quick question for you. How tough is it to win Lawn of the Week in Ida Grove? Is that a real complex deal, or are you eschewing most weeks?
Well, I put a lot of work into it. It's not easy.
Well, that's interesting. Is there a cash reward for this, or is it just a hobby of yours?
Oh, you just get your name in the paper and a little fame is all.
Wonderful. I appreciate it. Well, again, thanks, Warren, Eric, and Steve. Really good update. I want to switch gears now, give us a little bit of break from the pre-harvest talk and talk a little bit about what you should be expecting as an owner of this company and as a farmer that delivers grain and uses us for other inputs as well. The word that I'll start with is what you see very first listed on this slide, which is advocating or advocacy. This is not a word that is normally used when talking about something a local cooperative does for you. And we acknowledge that. And it's been maybe more reserved in years gone by to associations or other places that you have business with. But here's why avocation is something that I believe is really important for your local cooperative here at Landus to do. And there's really two reasons. One, the complexity of what has become the supply chain is greater than ever before, and I don't see it ever getting less complicated and probably realistically more complicated. So we must make sure that we're advocating in your behalf all the way from when you're planning, all the way through that supply chain to the consumer. And speaking of consumers in that supply chain, they're demanding more. They're wanting to know more about the crops, the animals that they are purchasing from grocery stores. The grocery stores now are wanting to know more. The consumer packaged good companies like a Pepsi, a Coke, a General Mills want to know more. So we have an obligation to work collaboratively together to make sure we do this. But there's another reason that I believe this avocation is important. If you look just at this year, what are we, a little over halfway through the year? We've seen things like COVID, trade wars, derecho, increase in government payments because of the list above that I mentioned, needs in rural communities that are stronger than ever before to survive. All these things are just this year alone. And we need to make sure your voice is heard, that what you're seeing, what you're needing is being dealt with. As an example, when derecho hit, having a discussion right away with Secretary Nag on the corn that was down flat, where you all know the general policy is you got to take a combine in, you got to try to get it, you got to satisfy the crop insurance on that attempt. But I'm happy to report that immediate discussion that we had with Secretary Nag led him to call USDA. Some other discussions happened, especially with Bill Northey, to where now you're seeing that you can go in, disc it, whatever path you want to take to destruct, and no attempt for harvest. Those little things, I personally believe, make a big difference in the journey that we're on. So avocation is something that's important for us to do through that supply chain, government agencies, whatever the case may be. But underneath avocation are our critical success factors. These are the things you should expect from us. These are the reasons you should feel good about your ownership here at Landus and the business you do here at Landus. First and foremost is putting you, our farmers owners, at the center of everything we do. Every decision, every action, every step we take should be centered around you. Now, this does not mean every decision we make you're going to love or think was right. We are serving 7,000 farmers that are owners of this company. So it's about the mass and making sure we get the overall direction right. But when you've got a personal need for your farm, whether it's avocation we need to be doing for you, help in any way, decisions that need to be made, pricing, service, it does not matter. We need to be there for you. No excuses. No discussions of other things. We need to be there at that moment, which is why number 2 of employee empowerment is so critical. You should expect that we will have employees locally that are able to make the decisions, assist you in any way, or if they need to get some other resources, it's a phone call away. Not multiple phone calls, multiple days. That does not work in 2020 and beyond. We need to be there that moment, and you deserve that as an owner of this company, and we will deliver that. And there's no group more passionate about your business than the ones that are on this call and the ones that they're representing today that aren't able to be on this call. And last, and I'll talk about this towards the end, is leaning into the future. This one is one that you might have a lot of questions around, but think about how agriculture is changing right in front of our eyes. We saw it through COVID. The impacts that COVID had on ethanol, the continued impacts that the ethanol industry is going to have with more electric vehicles, more oil waivers on down the line. That's just a small example of where our industry is going. So having the company that you own right here at Landus able to look around those corners, bring you things ahead of time that can impact your business and that we've been working with you and your farming operation on for months or years, not hours or days, is an important part of this journey. And I'll talk more about some examples in that, like data and technology, here in a little bit. But I want to also give you a flavor for our business units and where we're going in each of those three businesses. First, on agronomy, we have got to have best-in-class owner customer experience, or otherwise known as the Landus way. You know, in agronomy, when you need something, it's now. Whether it's picking up a product to be applied or getting that product applied on your farm through our custom application service that we provide, all of which are important and needs to be at that moment, not weeks later, not days later. Now, there's always a tough balance in that, depending on how Mother Nature plays out any spring season or even fall that we're up against. But we know what we need to do there. And that team is rifle focused on best-in-class experience for you and the others that we represent. Second is operational efficiency. And in agronomy, it's a little different meaning of operational efficiency. There's no doubt we've got to improve operational efficiency in several of our businesses, but agronomy being the most. But in agronomy, it's really about increasing our volume, getting back to what our agronomy business was and earning that business back from you or those of your peers that aren't doing much or any agronomy with us. See point one on what we need to do to drive that business back to help obtain the efficiencies that we need here at Landus in agronomy. We've also got to realign the supply chain. Today, there's way too many costs in the supply chain, way too many steps driving costs in that supply chain. By the time a product gets to you, it's went through multiple companies, multiple hands that all have taken a cut of that. Our job must remain vigilant on finding ways to reduce that cost, taking those steps and hands out of that supply chain to ensure cost is as low as possible for you, and that the service, C.1 once again, is the best it can be. And last is working with our neighbors. And I mentioned that a little bit in the opening with derecho. And it's really something that's important here in agronomy, that we need to not have the arrogance as the largest co-op here in Iowa, one of the largest around the country, but that we're here to help everyone. Because I know, and our team knows, that you do business with others. We'd like to see that change over time, but there is a necessity of some of that that will happen well into the future, and that's okay. We must be here for them too and find ways to collaborate and not build more assets with your money that are right next to us. Finding ways to collaborate, and you'll hear a lot more about this over time. In fact, we've demonstrated this recently with a neighboring cooperative up in the Rake area, Rake, Thompson, and Britt. So you'll see some of this continue to take shape across our geography, but I think it's an important part, especially as things happen in agriculture, like the storms that came through, like the drought we're experiencing in a lot of the geography. It's an important part. Next is our grain business. And there's really three key components that we must do in our grain business. First and foremost, without a doubt, is increase origination. That is why this grain group is here, to originate grain, whether it's from you in season to our locations or off season the rest of the year through your on-farm storage, whether that's delivered to one of our locations or an ethanol plant or feed mill. We must be a part of that discussion. And we've let some of that lapse over the last several years and not played as much of a role off season, that you will see our GMA team step up, and you'll hear Stacy and Tom talk about that here in a few minutes. We've also got to improve our operational efficiency in grain, but in grain, it's a little different than agronomy. In grain, it's particularly around grain quality, not transferring and hauling grain as a sport all the time, minimizing that as much as possible, not drying everything down all the way, doing a better job of mixing and blending, which will be critical this year as we know some of the issues that are going to be delivered to our locations with potential aflatoxin and other issues that are going to exist. This is what you count on your cooperative to do. We need to be doing things for farmers that they can't do on their own, and this is a really good example on the grain side of what we can do. But the other piece that's also a great example of what a cooperative should be doing is expanding our merchandising. There's also no doubt that merchandising is our strength today, and I acknowledge that. But we have work that can and will be done on this, because it's become a global market. Everyone around the globe wants Iowa corn and soybeans. That's been proven. As I've made my travels over the many years through different countries, they know where Iowa is. They want the commodities you produce. So we must do our job of getting out of the office, going into these countries after COVID, and having these discussions, bringing those opportunities back to Iowa, creating that win-win opportunity for you and those other people on the other side of those transactions. Because India, China, Mexico, Canada are all real markets that we can, through our strong rail infrastructure, serve better than anyone else in this state. And quite candidly, I would argue better than most here across the state or United States and globe. And while we're doing that, we've got to take different steps out of the supply chain, or links out of that supply chain as well. We have to have direct rail access and relationships. We've got to have those interactions with the companies in those countries and not rely solely on third parties to carry that discussion and risk. So look for us to really put a lot of effort in all three of these areas, but it starts with origination. And last but not least is our animal nutrition group, which I'm really proud of the success that they continue to make. In fact, we made an exciting announcement on the feed side here not that long ago, almost about a month ago now, that we would be building a new feed mill in Yale, Iowa, helping serve as many of our customers as we can on this business, including looking at pelleting as well. But in feed, it's about reinventing, elevating the opportunities that are out there for our livestock farmers and customers as well. We've got to play in that every day. And we've got to put the Landus brand in the forefront of everything that we do in feed, not the partners that we work with. And they're essential to the journey that we're on, no doubt. Whether we're talking about folks like Purina or Cargill, all are important parts of the journey. But it is your brand, Landus, that actually matters. And we will elevate that to put that in the forefront of everything that we do. On the dairy side, or D&P, you may know it as, it's about innovation. Yes, expanding market opportunities with new products, processes, and partnerships, absolutely, and they're doing a good job of that. But the biggest thing in expansion is expanding species, looking beyond ruminant animals like dairy, and seeing where we can expand into swine, into poultry, and other animal species as well. And they're on that journey as we speak. Remember, this is a portfolio of products that we sell in over 25 countries around the globe. So we must utilize this supply chain advantage that we have as grain, as feed, and this portfolio of D&P. And taking advantage of opportunities like they're having a discussion with a large ice cream manufacturer globally, and how we can use some of the portfolio in the dairy business to help them better tailor a product that consumers want. Bringing that opportunity through our grain business, our agronomy business, straight back to you. That's what your local cooperative should be doing. And I'm excited to tell you this team believes in this and are working diligently across all three of the businesses to do that every day. Now, I mentioned that I'd come back to leaning into the future, and I want to do that as the parting comment here on what you should expect. Because this could be complicated on one hand to understand, but I want to make it really simple. It is about looking around the corner and what's coming at us. And that's not that hard to do. We just have to have a person or two to do that. And one of the areas that really represents that well, in my humble opinion, is data, your data. Think about all the companies that get access to your farm data, climate, granular, all of those that are out there, even stuff at Cargill and ADM. Now, I understand the reason that you do that, and you should. But think about a day where you get paid for that data. Data has always been a huge business. Since credit cards, it's been a massive push to sell data. And I contend there will be a day in the not so distant future that the data that you produce from your farms could be worth more, or at least equal to, the commodity you're raising, whether it's grain or livestock, in a way that drives your profitability, creates sustainability and traceability. Overall integration of data into your operation and doing that through your cooperative that you own. What I'm really saying is we can't just be here for the 3 businesses I talked about, although very important today and well into the future, no doubt, in agronomy, grain, and animal nutrition. But there's a new area that's forming. And we, as Landus and the whole industry of agriculture, has not done the jobs that we should be doing to help ensure your data is protected and that you're getting the most value, both financially and outcomes driven of that. And as we talk about data, I don't think we can turn our back to the topic of technology. And I'm excited to announce that we've got a new digital tool for you for this harvest, which is e-signature. So not only does e-signatures help you and us be more efficient together as the company you own, but it also allows us to deal with things like a pandemic of COVID-19 and keeping safe distances and safety and health at the forefront of everything we do. So in the customer portal of yours with us or our app, you will be able to sign contracts like grain contracts this fall right online wherever you are. If you're signed up for text messaging or emails, you'll be able to get that alert that there is a contract that needs signed. You log into the portal or the app, and you'll be able to see that contract, sign it like the picture that those of you that can see the picture on the slide demonstrates with your finger on your phone, iPad, computer, whatever the case may be, and you're done. So one more step of how we're leading into the future and helping drive efficiency and health and safety for you and our employees alike. So with all this said, the exciting part is getting to talk to our grain marketing advisors. And Stacy, as you see on the slide, is with us today, as well as Tom Hickey. So Tom, I'm going to let you introduce yourself first and talk about anything you'd like, and then we'll turn it over to Stacy to go over some of the slides that we've got. Tom, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my name is Tom Hickey. I've been with Landus now for about 1.5 years. In the industry for a little over 20 years. You know, I know Stacy's going to go over some of the contracting options, you know, that we have available for fall. All I'd really like to do is just take a minute and just let everyone know that as we come up on harvest with, you know, harvest fast approaching, if you find that you don't have a home for all your grain in the fall, before we get into the quick pace and everything going on at harvest, feel free to reach out to Stacy or I. We'd be glad to come out and meet with you and sit down and talk through some of the things that Stacy's going to cover. Kind of give you the information before harvest. In the heat of the moment, you're kind of already prepped and ready, you know, to make the best decision for your business. I'd also just like to say that with, you know, harvest fast approaching and some of the struggles we're seeing out there, just, you know, a quick reminder, just keep the communication, you know, lines open with us, as Warren talked about, and, you know, for everyone to have a safe harvest. Stacy?
Thanks, Tom. So there is some changes. So we'll just go ahead and pop over to the first slide if we could. So there's a few changes, nothing major on our grain policy this year, but I guess the ones that are probably the most important, we did lower our drying charges from 3 3/4 cents to 3.5 cents. So not sure if that's going to make a big difference this year. I think the corn could come out pretty dry at this rate with the lack of rain that we've had. Another one is that we changed our soybean averaging buckets this last year. In the past, we had 3 different buckets. This year, everything 14 and below averages together and 14.1 averages together. So that's something to take in consideration. Just, you know, I know there's a lot of concern about grain quality and stuff. So just kind of wanted to make some stuff that is, so everyone knows it's clear. Loads 1% and below will be averaged together on soybean FM, and loads 1.1 and above will be averaged together. So there won't be any major breaks as far as that goes. Corn damage loads 10% and below will be averaged together, and loads 10.1 and above will be averaged together. So they'll break into 2 separate buckets. So you might have a delivery number that has 2 different buckets, and it could be because of FM or moisture. So something to take in consideration. And another thing is getting your grain delivery set up in advance. So If you have fields that you know you're going to be changing delivery numbers on, as far as that goes, averaging them together so you can keep them separate, don't be afraid to reach out to Renee or Brad or Mary, and they'll get those delivery numbers taken care of ahead of time for you, just kind of help you out with your transitions. It's also a great way to keep an eye on your stuff as far as what your moistures are and what your yields are. We can change delivery numbers per field, so that way you can keep track of each field. But just a big shout out to Mary and Renee and Brad and all of them. This summer, we worked really hard on getting grain into the elevator, and they worked hard, and so did their team, Steve Ferry and all of them, getting that grain taken care of efficiently, taking care of the customer. So I really think they've shined this year and shown what they can do. As we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. And I guess I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about some new contracts, some new offerings for fall that we have. We have weekly double up accumulators. It's a new contract that allows you to price bushels above the market. It's something that you have the potential of being doubled up or knocked out. So it's something, before you do it, I think that we really need to go over in detail about what it is, how it works, and what the advantages and disadvantages are for the producer. So don't be afraid, give me a call or give Tom a call, and we'll go out to the farm and have across the truck a meeting, you know, keeping our social distance and going over what the contract is. But I do think it's something that is very valuable to our farm operations. I personally use them. I've had good results with them. But they can get you in trouble if you don't properly understand them. So make sure you give us a call. We'll come, we'll talk to you about them and go through them in details. Another contract that is new, have not gotten the opportunity myself to try because it is new this month, is called a weekly floor contract, which offers you an opportunity to set a floor on a price while capturing upside potential. Another way to look at it is it's an averaging contract that allows you to set a floor underneath you. The cost to do this contract has different costs different amounts depending on the time frame and what futures month we want to use, but it's something new, allows you to set a floor underneath you but grab some upside potential that is penny to penny versus maybe your minimum contracts where you sell the cash and buy a call. You don't have that opportunity to capture penny for penny. And then the extended price contract where you sell the cash and you buy the futures, it stops storage fees, drives 15 to 14% and allows for 70% cash advance, has been a very popular contract in the fall for the last couple of years. If you haven't used them in the past, I do think that we should go through them, talk about it before you get in the field, because there is some opportunities to save some money. But I would caution people, sometimes guys get it in their head, I'm not paying storage, so I'm just going to hold out. It's really important to set goals and levels and stick to them, which we can run offers and stuff on those. And then lastly, new to this year is our flex delivery into processors. So don't be afraid to ask Tom and I about direct ship into our local processors. It's an opportunity to capture the processors' grain policies and basis while gaining potential patronage through Landus and supporting the farmer-owned co-op. We can do all our different specialty contracts, and it gives you the opportunity when you do some of these specialty contracts through us versus the competitor, it gives you flexibility, because if you do it with the processor, you're tied to just that processor, as opposed to if you do it with Landus, it gives you the opportunity to look at the different processor bids in the area and make a final decision. So just something to take in consideration. I would say reach out to Tom or I and see what we can do, and we can go over everything in detail. So I'll pass it back to you, Matt, unless Tom has anything else he wants to add.
Tom, I'm going to assume silence is agreement that you're good with everything Stacy said. Thank you to both of you for that. And I appreciate, Stacy, you recognizing Brad and Renee and Mary. I also want to say Sarah at Sulphur Springs and Amber at Newell. All are a critical part of our grain process as CSS, as our customer service specialists. So remember that you can also use them for a resource as you go through season, in addition to, of course, Stacy and Tom, who kind of drive that ultimately. So I guess, Alicia, we're at time. Did any questions come in that we needed to address, or should we wrap up? What would you like to do?
I do not see any questions. In fact, the question that we usually get about damage, Warren answered at the beginning. So if you have more questions on that, I would reach out to your GMA or your CSS. So I will turn it over to you for a wrap up, just letting people know that the prize winners are coming from your location managers.
Excellent. Thanks, Alicia, and congratulations to those that win prizes here later today. A little bit on those that can see the slide. I do want you to know that you've got full access to me, although the local team are the folks that really drive these decisions and efforts, but I'm not hiding from you. I want to be a part of our journey and make sure that I'm there guiding the company in the right direction. My office is 515-817-2104. That's my direct line. Again, 515-817-2104. And my email is matt.karstens@landuscooperative.com. Again, matt.karstens@landuscooperative.com. So in closing, I'd just like to say once again, thank you for taking the time to participate in this. It is absolutely a new day here at Landus, and it's an exciting time to be a part of this transformation as we put this company together a few years ago and are now taking those steps forward that you can all be proud of your ownership here. And I want you to hold us accountable to the farmer owner expectations of putting you in the center of everything we do, that employees are empowered to do those things that need to be done for our farmer owners, and that we are leaning into the future, particularly innovation, and helping guide where this complex supply chain that agriculture participates in food and energy and tech and data is all done here first and foremost at Landus. So thank you once again. Have a safe fall harvest. We know that it's a challenging time, so always put your safety and health first and let us know how we can help. Thank you so much, everyone.